2 already? All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of AfroYOUnited podcast. This is episode 3. My name is Bumi. Again, your host for today. I'm gonna let my guests introduce themselves. So we'll start from this side.
My name is Shope for the people that can't pronounce Shokbe. So Shope or Shokbe.
And my name is Thurman. A lot of people call me Therm.
Hi, I'm Alicia. Everybody calls me Alicia.
Hi, my name is Kumi. People do call me Kumi.
Awesome. So today we are talking about, the history of Africa in America. So basically, looking back the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of changes, right? About how people accepted Africans or, so compared to now, right? So, from you guys' point of view, looking back 10 years ago, whatever you remember about Africans, what was that like for you? So anybody, we can start from this side. What is that like, being an African in America?
So I came here from England, and in London where I live, there's a whole immigrant community. At some point, one of the prime ministers in England said multiculturalism has failed because what people do is they live in their pockets, right? So if you went to England, you would live with other Americans and you just live in your community, and occasionally you would exchange ideas through business or through, he said that plan has failed, that England is, I don't know. I thought his statement was low-key kind of racist because I think multiculturalism worked in England because people were free to bring in their culture and show their culture off in the best ways. So for me, I wasn't woke in England. I became woke when I started applying for scholarships here. I applied for scholarship on diversity. I applied for scholarship on social justice, and those 2 scholarships changed my life because then I started reflecting internally about what being black in America looks like and being African in America looks like. So for me, I think it is cool to be African, but only because in America we flip the image where we're like, oh, they're not African American, they're African, right? So white people are okay with Africans because they're not black, they're African, which is low-key kind of racist, but it is the system that we live in.
As an American, technically, I feel like in America we have too many mixing pots of cultures. And one of the things that sucks is, I am black. I do have African blood somewhere in me, but I don't know where that would come from. I got to take a DNA test. And even when I take that DNA test, it's who do I connect with to reestablish my roots and get more acclimated with my culture. And just like you were saying is, as an African, you're exotic, you're foreign. It's like seeing a Chinese person or maybe seeing an Indian person. Where you have me, it's like, you're black. So you have one of those, back and forth where it's just like, you're African, I'm black. Even though we're the same, we might have the same blood, we might have the same background, we are very different just based off of that.
I guess for me, being Black American, it was something that I never really thought about growing up. To me, just with the things that we face as Black and African people as a society, that was more ingrained in me growing up. And so I didn't see a difference, really. If you were Black, you were Black. Because I feel like we, growing up, I'm a little older, so I was an 80s baby, and so not too far from, all of the things that were going on, the racism in my ancestors. So I was very aware of those things. So when I look at us as a united front and a team, and I know a lot of Black Americans and then possibly African Americans as well didn't really believe that way, but that's just the belief that I had. And so I would always wonder why we weren't more united, because I feel like at the end of the day, we're all fighting the same battle. So even then and then today, that's just the way that I view things. I did do the DNA ancestry test, but not for the reasons that other people I feel like did it either. I did it just because just my physical features people would comment on. So like my hair wasn't black enough, or like my eyes. Even my family, they would say that I look like I have like a lot of Asian in me. So I took it to prove a point that I didn't have Asian because everybody has jokes. It was because there was so it did. It showed 28% Nigeria and then 23% Congo. So yes, but no,
But
there
no
was
Asian.
a little European in there too.
Just confirm there's no Asian in there.
There was no Asian in there. For everybody out in the crowd who thinks they know. I mean, because growing up, like my nickname, I say people call me Alicia, but people that are closest to me, my nickname is Ming. So they call me Ming. And I've just accepted it. But I say that to say, I know that over, like you said, the last 10 years, there's kind of been a shift, and I've noticed it as well. I think that maybe with a lot of people, it's the cool thing to do and to be. But for me, it's always been the cool thing to be. And I just have embraced myself and then those around me who look like me. So, yeah.
So I think there are two fronts I want to talk about it from. So one being a Nigerian who grew up in Nigeria and moved here for college about 8 years ago. So coming in, first of all, I didn't know that racism was a thing. Yes, you come in and you see what the media tells you for the most part, but also for us, we're just looking at America as America. Oh yeah, it's just like everyone is just, everything is Gucci.
It's not.
and I come and I'm like, oh, raw, it's not.
Not.
There's discrimination. There are all these things that actually somewhat still segregate the black people from the white and other races. And so that was the major thing I really had concern about. But then when I look at it from the aspect of Nigerians who either were born here or have lived here for a long time, they see it from a completely different perspective, because for them, their roots are Nigerian. Their parents are as Nigerian as my parents back home in Nigeria. But the environment where they find themselves every day is not. So that's where that difference is. And they can't, for the most part, when they try to connect with people who look like them, there's always that divide still. You hear the term African booty scratcher, stuff like that, it wasn't cool to be African, apparently. I didn't know that, because I'm coming in, I'm just like, yeah, okay, America, cool. But the other Nigerians who lived here, they had it rough. They come to school and apparently they get made fun of for being African. And so I think that kind of brings us to the point of this. In the past 10 years, we've seen more recognition to Africa. We've seen people, the music,
people want to go
the
there.
food, the people want to go there, the culture.
Yep.
And it's easy to look at it like, oh, so now y'all want to be cool. So now it's hip, you know?
Yeah.
Right. But also, we can look at it from the other aspect is this is great. We're getting more in tune with who we are. Where you said therm, right? Yeah. Like what you said about, then you didn't really know a lot about where your roots are. But now you see a lot of people are coming in and they want to know more. And we could probably thank social media for that. The world is more and more, technology has really changed how we look at things. And so people are more involved in that. People want to know more. People want to, Afrobeat is the hottest thing right now. Burna Boy, Davido, all this, and it's great. And so there's definitely that outlook of, Yeah, y'all would call me African booty scratcher. So like for the people who grew up here, they could have that like I can see them being a little salty about it. Yeah. But you know, also it's great overall for us as a community because we're coming together, we're appreciating who we are as a people, and everyone is acknowledging that we all come from, you know, Africa and like, you know, the motherland. So I think that's, from my perspective, I think that's really cool, and I like to see that. But, yeah.
And I like to leverage off of everybody. It's cool for you and then just where we've come over the course of a decade, because 10 years ago, it'll be 2010. Yeah. I'll go a little bit further than 10 years ago. We're still coming from a American culture that dripped off of, you know, our ancestors being brought over and being ripped from their culture time and time again until we were pretty much neutralized and we had no culture but America. Like, no, you're not black or you're not African, you're American. You're not African, you're American, you're not African. And it's to a point now, it's kind of like an abandonment, because if we all got on a plane right now with Nigeria, y'all would have a heyday. And I would be struggling. I would not feel I was a part of that community at all.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, maybe. We'll see. We'll see, right? But yeah, and I think back then we didn't have as much connectivity as we did right now with the internet and with social media and things like that. So you have those pockets where over here in this pocket, it's funny to say, oh, when the lights go out, hey, Thurman, smile so we can see it. It's, you know, in this pocket, it's funny to say, oh, you're an African booty scratcher. But then, you know, there's that one kid that doesn't think that's funny. And then there's those two people that don't think it's funny. And then we get more acclimated with the internet, and then now this pocket connects with that pocket, and everybody can stand up and speak together. Yeah. And then you bring over the Nigerian culture, and then you got the people that didn't speak up, like, yo, this is dope. And then now your African booty scratchers and your smile so we can see are kind of like, oh, we're outnumbered as hell. Like, so I think we can thank the media, and we thank, you know, you guys for your courage to just come to a foreign country and really just be yourself.
And just to piggyback on that a little bit, so I've been in America for 15 years now. So I was a kid getting called African booty scratcher in school. Like, I hated high school. I hated my school, honestly. So like, looking back now, I'm like, I get it, because this kid, they didn't know any better, right? So I won't lie to you, like, I did not. I mean, I feel like that's what they see in social media. They see Africa as this poor country. Like, they walk up to me, ask me stupid questions like, do you guys wear shoes in Nigeria? Do you guys do that? Do this and that? So like, I was very frustrated. Like, I did not like African Americans, like Black Americans. I did not like them back then, right? Because even white people love me. Like, I was more, I prefer to hang out with white people because they did not asking me those questions, right? And then like Black people that actually looked like me, I thought, oh, it'd be easier, right? But it wasn't. I went to, I won't say the name of the school, but it's not a high school anymore, you know. So, but it was it was a very tough time. So I did not like my experience. But when I got to college, it was different. So now that's why I said I think it was that group of people. So when I got to college, people have sense now. So I was actually happy to be, you know, Black, right? But obviously now, it's cool to be African now. Like, everybody wants to go to Ghana the year of the return last year. Like, I wanted to go back home, but the ticket was so expensive because they jacked up the price, because everybody wants to go to Africa now. I'm like, bro. And like, before it wasn't like that, which I like. Now that people want to go, you talked about DNA, which is pretty cool. Like, you know, people want to take the DNA test to know where they're from. So I think it's pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit about our DNA test. Before we go there, I want to take a pause and say shout out to Level Up Gaming Lounge and Bar. It's a Black-owned business on East Washington Street, Irvington area. So shout out to them for letting us use their space today. So I like to support Black business, as we all do. So we're here to promote them as well. Also, shout out to them for letting us use the space. So let's go back to that DNA test. So from your experience, did you took one before? Are you taking one, or are you gonna take one? All of that. What do you think about people wanting to take DNA test? So we can start from your side.
I think DNA test is interesting. I recently spoke to an African American scholar who presented as, I mean, if you looked at her, you would think she was white. And her name is Francois Bayless. Really cool person, right? Really. I think she's Canadian, so that might be the French spin. Yeah, I read a piece that she wrote, and basically in the piece she talks about like her black identity, right? Because when people found out she was black, they were like whispering about it, like, did you know she's black? Like, what, she black? But she's always known she's black because she grew up with a black mother. And so it's like, it's just inherent. Like, she has cousins all shades of black, right? So it's like, for her, she's black. She recognizes she's black. Everybody else, like me, sees her as a white lady. So like, what does that mean for her identity? Because she knows she's black, but we don't, right? And then the DNA piece comes in where now black people are looking up to see where they come from. I'm not gonna take one. I know where I'm from. I mean, the pieces about the way we look, if our DNA comes from different parts of the world, that's fair enough. I mean, long ago, maybe Genghis Khan crossed into Africa and spread his DNA amongst African people. Maybe, who knows, right? But in reality, does that matter? That's the real question here. Does that matter? And why does that matter? Because I think some of the pieces we have to understand around DNA is power. And it's power to know where you're from, be able to connect to where you're from. Some of those pieces of like people intentionally, slave owners intentionally stripping away African culture from African slaves so that they don't know who they are, so that they don't have strength in unity. That stuff is jacked up. And if people want to reclaim that by taking DNA tests to know where they're from, to know what part of Africa, what countries in Africa they identify with, I'm cool with that. But it's a power play. White people are still making money off those DNA tests. So like, who won? Did you win or did they win? Like, maybe if there are like black-owned DNA testing shops, I'd be like, okay, so maybe we're contributing back into the economy. Maybe we're giving back to our community. But if you really think about it, the government is using this stuff too, right? So when they collect your DNA, you think, oh yeah, it's safe. But they can find out, you know, who you're related to that way. When you get arrested and your information goes into the system,
so you scared.
They can connect the dots.
That's why you did.
They can connect the dots. I mean, you have to think about these pieces
right.
when you contribute your DNA into a massive database.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about it.
I feel the exact same way as my man Chopay over here. You know, I love conspiracies. I'm always into conspiracies. I won't get into any conspiracies, but I do feel like that. Like, you're giving out information that can be used against you, because it's crazy how, and nothing against you on your DNA test, but it's crazy how if I want to go and do a DNA test, there's so much fine print that you've got to read through. It's like, I should just be able to say, yes, you can analyze this to get me my results and send them back. That's it. I feel that should only be 2-3 pages. Why is there 50 pages of subclause? And nobody ever reads that anyway. We jump straight and click it, and then we'll get upset later and try to file charges and find out that. But I think I found out something the other day, and pardon my ignorance if everybody else knew this, but when you have a baby, one of my dudes, congrats Taylor, he had his third child, he took his shirt off so he could hold his baby, because the baby for the first few hours or days or so needs that skin to skin contact with the parents. And it's that energy, that spirituality that transfers back and forth that kind of gives you strength. And I feel that not knowing where you came from, it kind of sounds weird, because like, I want to know that I'm African so I can party with my Africans. Like, I gotta know first so I know I'm cool. Oh, I'm actually Asian? Well, I'm gonna go party with Ming in the back and hang out. But it's just like, it's just the energy you get from people that share the same blood as you. You know, I can go to a party with white people, Indian people, and have a good time, but I went to church the other day out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was probably 80% black, and we were jamming, having a good time. Like, it was almost like a concert that was free. It was dope. And it's like, you can't get that energy anywhere else. And I wonder if other people feel the exact same of different races. It's just you can't get that nowhere else. So maybe I do need to take a DNA test, but if you go missing, I'll know I won't take one. So.
Just to add to that, I on accident took the DNA test, right? Because so you know they no. So they offer, it's a website called Collar. They offer it at work where they tell you about if your family had diabetes and all that. So like a month later, they sent me my DNA. I'm like, I didn't even knew I signed up for this, right? So they told me, luckily, 100% Nigerian. So I'm like, okay, I was not worried about it. So I'm like, to piggyback what you said about the energy, right? So I mean, you've been to my house parties before with the Nigerians, like the music. I mean, like everybody's jamming. So definitely the energy, you know, when you're around the people that look like you, or I mean, I've never been to all. Well, I guess I have been to all white. They're having a great time, and I'm out here looking like, oh damn, what else is going on, you know? But when I go to my Nigerians or go to my Black Americans or whatever, right, it's lit. Like we are here jamming. We don't care about, like I'll be out here sweating and all that, right? So this is so when you're around the people that look like you or you know, from the same background, like the experience, the energy is definitely different. So I'll let you comment on that, or I can start from your side too.
Yeah, so I think overall, the whole idea of DNA tests, I didn't know it was a thing that people did until I think Ancestry was kind of the first one that really got it really popular, right? And maybe 4 or 5 years ago, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they started as just you find your family member. So I feel like now they expanded your family tree, but now it's a lot different now. Like it's crazy.
Gotcha. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. Personally as well, I never really thought there was a need for me to do one. I'm probably completely Nigerian, but the thing is, you never know, right? And so it's just like, I think it comes down to a point you made, Chopin, with regards to the importance that plays to you, right? And like, it's more of a mental thing, right? And like for you, it was, you know, there's all these questions, people making you question your identity and all that. So you needed to do that to, you know, you needed that answer. And that's a very legitimate reason to do that, you know? And then you think about the whole idea of like getting that connection to people and wanting to make sure, you know, you can, when you're in the right area, you can vibe with these people. So even if you don't know them, you're feeling the music and you're like, why am I feeling this? It's like, oh yeah, because I'm 23% Nigerian. You know? So like all of it's all our mind, and it's all like where we want to get our mental, right? Like what are we trying to achieve? And I think that answer kind of comes down to that connection, to that aspect of, you know, wanting to be people, wanting to have that oneness. And I really love it. I think I'm very fortunate to come to America in a time where this integration is being exponential, because I can't even imagine what it was like for, say, people of, say, our parents' generations when they came at our age, maybe, because there's some of like your parents probably came, like, I don't know, like by the time they came, they were still at that point where, you know, they probably like the white man more than they like their fellow Black Americans. I mean, even
today,
till now, right? Yeah, like
you know,
my uncles, I have a lot of family in Texas, and they'll be the first to say, no, don't do this.
Don't go this part of town.
Don't go this part of town. This, no, for real. And it's like,
African American racism.
Yes, that's a big one. That's a big one, and you kind of wonder why that is, right? And like, why do we have that in the older generations more, but why do we have that disparity, and why do Africans feel like African Americans are, they're not people you should be hanging out with and all that?
That's the media, though. Like, the media makes you think, makes you not want to do that. Like, I mean, he has to it. Like, my mom, I literally told my mom, stop watching TV, but I disagree.
I think, I see that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just being Black American, I think too, it kind of, I hate to say it, but I feel like it stems from our community, because just being African American, growing up, like I said, I experienced stuff just within my own culture, just like your skin tone, why is my hair the way it is, like, so therefore, my peers would say, because I have good hair, then I think I'm better, and things like that. And so, that kind of plays a role too with me checking to see, because when we're constantly combating and fighting each other, me coming from the family culture that I come from, we're just all loving and accepting of everybody. So then when I am get put out into the real world and get into school, and I start to see everybody, I'm loving everybody, but they are trying to exclude me for certain traits that I have, which I have no control over. That kind of starts to mess with your mind. And so you want to find your place. So what is my place? Because I'm Black, and I still say that, like, as an adult, like, don't question me, I'm Black. And they're like, but are you? Like, yes, I am. So I feel like I'm constantly have to prove that. But then that comes with different with females that are African American. They have like this, and I don't know if you guys are familiar, but like the brown paper bag challenge. Like, if your skin is darker, then you're not as beautiful. So you were the house slave, so therefore you think you're better, like things like that. And so I think just within our culture, if we're doing that to each other, just with African Americans, I could see how Africans can look in and see, like, you're not even loving each other, so why would we want to be a part of that? Because I feel like you guys are more unified as a culture, and that's something that we all should be, but we're getting there, but we are not. We're not there yet.
And going off of that, it's kind of back to being woke and being ripped from your culture and your values and your strength. Is, I feel over the course of the years, you have, I think everybody's Nigerian.
Oh, all three of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just use. You're African American, so we'll use Nigerian. So you got Nigerian, you've got the cultures, you've got the values and everything like that, and it's a matter of a well-organized community. If you two don't know each other, you might still interact, and you'll base your thoughts on him and your thoughts on him off of that conversation,
that
discussion.
I introduced myself this morning though to him, because that was funny. It was like, so when he came, I'll let you tell the story.
Right.
So he walks up and he was shaking up, and I go, Shope. And then he says his name, Kumi, and I'm like, oh, Shope. You can say my name the right way. You can say my name the right way.
I got you. I feel it. And exactly like that. But then you have African American culture, right? So we're gonna set this meter, and we're gonna leave Nigerians on this side right here, right? So then you go through slavery, you get moved to America, and you start, after decades, getting ripped from your culture, and then now you have Black American. Okay, so you've got individuals like ourselves, but you get people that are so lost that they end up becoming what we call, the ratchet or the hoodlums, or the people that feel very entitled, but they don't want to pursue further education. They don't want to better themselves, and then that weighs down on the generations that they produce, and then you end up with a broken up community. So you have your yuppies and your young Black professionals and individuals that are doing real estate or in the tech industry and doing this, and then you have individuals that don't go to school, they may drop out, they may not do college, they, pick up jobs just to make money and basically just to sustain life. And this community ends up breeding or exuding this kind of, machoism. So, you gotta be a man, you gotta be the real, the realest, monkey in the jungle. And now we're fighting each other. Now we're shooting each other. We're robbing each other. We're stealing from each other. And it just continues to mass produce. Then you have kids and you put that on your kids, and then they have kids, and it pretty much becomes kind of a plague. And then you got the Africans that come in and it's just like, oh, my dad said to avoid this community over here because of what's happening. And then you have your professional African Americans that are just kind of like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, I'm black just like you. So, yeah.
That was deep. You want to add to that?
Yeah, you did. I mean, so I've never heard that from an African American perspective, right? I've heard it from the Nigerian perspective, and I think the Nigerian perspective is really harsh. Like, in our culture, we're not about the cuddling each other about the truth. We're really about just smacking each other up with the truth. You smell, go shower. That's what my aunt said that to me one time. I was like, whoa, hold on a second, I'm here. It's okay, but that, I mean, could she have done it in a more loving way that would have made me think about it differently? She just present the reasoning to me better. Yeah, of course she could have, but that was the way she knew, and that was the way she grew up. Now, when you present that story and that narrative that way, I mean, it is what Africans see, coming in. However, it doesn't have to be where the story ends, right? So as Africans, we don't have to go, oh man, there are some people in the African American community that believe this, this, and this, and don't want to give or contribute in this way. That's not everybody though, is it? You know what I mean? There are enough people out here doing things the right way, right? When we say the right way, that there's some power dynamics there too, right? That's a whole different conversation, because the right way isn't really the right way. It's just the European way. It's just the American way. It's people telling us it's the right way. In order to have progress in any community, we have to be able to be self-reflective. And when we don't have the cross-cultural conversation and we just stay in our lane and we go, yeah, I think I know why he's doing that, and that's kind of jacked up, I'm not gonna tell him anything. My dad would be like, oh, I see this, this, and this about this community. I think they could be doing this differently. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's fair enough. Thank you. That's literally my piece to my other African people. I get it, but you have to engage in the conversation. Ain't nobody gonna read your mind out here. Nobody can tell what you're thinking. Go out there, connect with the people, connect with the community that you think needs to hear this message, and share the message like we're doing here.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, and I mean, if you know me personally, I like to bring everybody like this together so we can all talk about it, right? How do we move forward, right? So, because African, we like to keep everything to ourselves. Like in our little community, we have the education. Average Nigerian has a master's degree. That's what we do, but we don't go back to the African American brothers and tell them hey, bro, you need to get your shit together, right? So you're not left behind. So we don't do that. We need to do that more. We need to have this conversation so we can all help each other. Because in America, we're still black to the white man. Yeah. If you get pulled over by the cop, if you get pulled over by the cop, you're still a black man. So let's all come together. So with that being said, I want you guys to get your final thought in, because for that 30 minutes, keep it like that. So what else you want to add to this conversation, and then we can wrap up. We can start with you. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. First of all, this is great. I'm really glad to be here and, talking about things like this in our community, our culture. And I think overall, the fact that we can do stuff like this means we're pointing in the right direction, right? And I think taking it out of here too, and just always being conscious that no matter the differences, we have more in common deep down than we have different. And to be able to connect with each other and make sure that we're grown as a people, we got to help each other out. We got to be able to have those real conversations, be able to involve people, in social aspects of our lives as well, the things we do, and just also bringing it back to the community here in Indianapolis or Indiana overall. Getting more involved into the community in a way that we can see or get in a way that we can connect more with the community. We can connect more with the people, and in that way, when we have that connection, we tend to grow. What's that saying? The tide raises all ships. So if you have that connection with other people, and if they see that the things you're doing are good, everyone likes good things. So if you see your buddy like, damn, he has his shit together, like you want to do that too. Hey man, how'd you do this? How can I learn this? And and so that interaction just helps us grow as a people. But yeah, so we're going in the right direction, and yeah, I'm excited. So yeah, thanks.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I agree, but also it's just that education piece. So just continuing to educate those around us, and then reaching down towards the youth, because unfortunately it is a cycle. And it starts in the household, and if you don't know better, you can't do better. And unfortunately, we just don't start to realize until we get into that point of higher education and meeting those outside of our neighborhood. So just reaching back, continuing the education, mentoring, being in the community. Those are all the things that I continue to try to do my part. I feel like if we all continue to do that and ask questions and are open to conversations, we can definitely keep on this track.
Definitely great points, guys. I do want to thank Boomy for allowing me to be here today, and it's important to just remember that all it takes is one. For lack of better terms, you got the coronavirus that started somewhere with one thing, and we see what it's growing to be. I know. It's the most relevant. You look at all these major companies, Google, Apple, Salesforce, they started with one idea and one individual. And then, you look at Boomy, this podcast and the different things that Boomy does. All it takes is one person and one influence on another for it to really spread. So I think it's really just a matter of continuing to have different things like this where you can get together and share thoughts. And maybe somebody watches this podcast and they decide to do something else on their end to kind of leverage off of this. And I think that's truly how you get that growth.
I think for my final thoughts, I think I'm always a big person for conversations, and I'm not sure why, but I think conversations are where we start any social justice movement, any movement towards justice, any movement towards progress, and I think it's about sharing ideas and learning from each other. I think a major piece of where we go wrong sometimes is feeling like we're the experts and we're the only expert. Like my opinion is the only opinion that matters. I am happy to say I've been wrong multiple times, maybe my whole life, about issues, right? And then I hear a different perspective, or I hear a perspective that echoes my perspective, and I'm like, well, I got to change my mind now. I got to change. And we have to be okay saying that. I mean, our politics, if you see Joe Biden, if you see Elizabeth Warren, if you see Bernie Sanders, see all these Democratic candidates, even if you see Donald Trump, right? All these people have changed their minds once or twice in their lives. And you see how the media reacts when they change their mind, right? Oh man, they're flip-flopping. No, they're just human, right? We're just human. You change your opinion, you change your mind because you learned more. I mean, someone I think that is interesting to always look at is Hillary Clinton. I mean, people don't give her praise for doing this, but she always changes her mind because she always learns more information. it's weird because I'm not Hillary Clinton's biggest fan, but when I heard that she actually spends time learning information, like she just, like if she doesn't know about gentrification, let's say that's the topic, she'll call an expert, listen, learn, change your opinion. So that's what I want to do. That's what I think we should all be doing, is taking time to learn, and encouraging other people to do that too. Just change your mind.
Well, with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here. I know we talked a little bit about everything, so I mean, it doesn't have to stop here. So whoever's watching, get out there, go learn about something, right? We don't have to be experts in anything. I mean, I'm always learning, so you don't learn everything in school, right? So you learn everything outside a lot of times. So ask questions. Don't assume that all Black people are the same. Don't assume all Nigerians are the same. We are unique individuals. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Also thank Level Up Gaming Bar and Lounge. They have bar and gaming. You cannot, what else do you need? So come check them out. They're in Irvington area, East Washington Street. They are a Black owned business, so we like to support them. So with that being said, this is it. You guys have a beautiful shout out to our videographer, Day in Day Out Productions. They make us look good. Awesome. Thanks, guys.